So, I recently binge watched the entire Castlevania series and I liked it. Both the original series and Nocturne as well. I'm going to bring up the top highlights for me in both, in no particular order as well. And if you don't know what the Castlevania series is about, all I'd say as a super quick summary is that it is about vampires from centuries ago and how they impacted
human society.
Takeaway number one is that they found a way to use multiple known vampire related names in fiction and implement them in the series. Dracula, for example, was the main villain for the first half of the first series, while Carmilla and Varney were the main villains for the second half, though Varney kind of felt like he was just shoved in towards the end. Yeah, we could have done without him. Takeaway number two involves what you got in the thumbnail. Carmilla is undeniably the most badass antagonist in the series. Despite the limited screen time she got, in a way, anytime she showed up was either funny or gripping. Spoiler alert, but my girl went out like a boss. Her death scene is one of the most epic deaths I have seen in a long time. They could not take this woman down in a sneak attack, alone in her room, outnumbered by monsters who are controlled and joined by their master. We're talking about the guy who was, without question, the best fighter that served Dracula. Out for vengeance to take down Carmilla and could not beat her with an ambush. She took on wave after wave. Honestly, I teared up for her because I did not expect them to go that hard with her skills here. And I was also sad because I knew she had to die, but I also felt it would be due to the seemingly unlimited amount of beasts that Isaac was sending her way. Which made it that much more satisfying when she was like, "You bums can't kill me! Even after all this, you don't deserve to." Actually, she said this.
Look at you all. You're not big enough to kill me. You're nothing. You don't deserve my blood.
Then stabbed herself and exploded. Took out the whole room except Isaac, who survived. That was legendary. I didn't like that they did not clarify her death though. Like they made it seem as if she died at the hands of Isaac and his creatures, when in reality she killed herself. Now, we can say she would have eventually been overwhelmed anyway, since she was literally caged inside while the animals were allowed to continuously go after her. And we're talking a whole army of them too. But at the same time, if there was proper communication with the rest of her sisters who arrived mere seconds after she died, it is possible she could have dragged it out longer. My guess is she didn't want to be in that state where it came down to some lame last minute stab in the back or whatever when she is beaten down and covered in countless more injuries. Either way, I know this is a long takeaway, but this is legitimately the most impressive singular vampire scene I saw in the series.
I am Camilla.
Boss Miller. But by the way, what the heck was this guy doing with Carmilla's shoes though?
Show me the map of hell you told me about, or I'll tell her what you've been doing with her shoes.
Also, this interaction with the sisters Council of Lenore, Carmilla, Striga, and Morana still has me cracking up.
Oh, and the house will need a really big bed. Turns out he's actually fairly good at sex and I want to train him.
Get away from me. Seriously.
Please leave now. I don't think I needed that information.
Bye-bye.
Did I need to know that?
Takeaway number 3. Why the heck are the Belmonts always on the edge of extinction? We got Trevor, who was the last of them in the first series, and then 9 generations later, Richter Belmont is also the last Belmont. And I know we later found out that his grandfather was alive, but come on, you mean to tell me there is always less than a handful of Belmonts in every generation despite the family line existing for literal centuries? None of you can have multiple kids as parents? There was a moment where just the old man said Tara and Maria are of that line. Tara, I think, is some distant cousin that Richter calls an aunt, but it wasn't cleared up how far from the main line she was. Based on the wording, I'm guessing at some point a previous Belmont ancestor had a daughter. That daughter married and gave up the name. Then they had kids, and one of the descendants of those kids became Tara. I also found it a bit weird though, because Richter's mom kept the Belmont name, so either she was never married or the Belmonts are a family that will retain the name regardless of gender or marriage, which would make my previous thought invalid. Or maybe Richter's mom, Julia, was just a single mom and didn't want anything to do with the dad. He was not mentioned in Nocturne, if I'm not mistaken, but the fact that Terra exists should mean that at some point, some abnormal and legendary and completely illogical Belmont had at least 2 kids. Because there is her line and Richter's line. Can you imagine an animated Belmont did something so impossible and so unimaginable, such as having more than 1 kid? Anyway, takeaway number 4, the female designs in Nocturne, especially the vampires, were S tier. The only one I didn't like was Elizabeth when she transformed. With each transformation, she seemed less captivating, but other than that, no issues. I like the height they gave her though. Jolta, Terra, when she turned, Annette, not a vamp, but her overall appearance, those were all great. I think Nocturne made up for some stuff that Castlevania failed to truly carry out. Like, we didn't get a Carmilla feeding scene, nor do I think we got any of the sister council either. So for Nocturne, we got multiple female vamps doing it. Some could even be called borderline erotic or sensual, I guess. Takeaway number 5. Alucard, the half-human, half-vampire son of Dracula, and his dynamic with the Belmonts is amazing. The dynamic they have was sometimes comedy gold, from Trevor to Richter and just at the end. Takeaway number 6. I noticed that Alucard finally did it as well, but apparently when the vampires are going all out, their eyes become red, filled with blood. Carmilla was when it first came to my mind, but I think Dracula did it before. Alucard did it in Nocturne, so this is when you know they are desperate. Takeaway number 7. Most of the fight scenes were brilliant. The final battle was Elizabeth taking on the good guys, probably the best battle sequence of the whole series, and after she got betrayed by Jolta, that too was impressive, even though I think that the earlier match when it was just Jolta versus Alucard was better than the final, Jolta battle. Takeaway number 8, Alucard's parents suck. And the reason why I am saying this is that they both came back to life, promised each other they would see him later at some point, but Nocturne took place centuries later and he made no mention of ever seeing them again. So if that is indeed true, they both suck. Takeaway number 9, Jolta, Lenore, and Vamp Terra are fine like wine. Takeaway number 10, Nocturne 2 might be the end. Peace.
Bye-bye.
But I need to know that.